Dear friends and space family, this has been a remarkable first day. It was amazing to see how many of you connected from all over the globe to attend our sessions and interact with each other and with the speakers throughout the day. We could not inaugurate this innovative IEC in a better way than by smashing any previous record in terms of participation. I'm proud to let you know that today we reached the impressive registration number of more than 11,300 attendees. Thank you so much for your contribution in making this an IEC to remember. As you all know, we are particularly proud of our rich program, which maintained all the main features of an in-person event. Now, at the end of the day, we would like to recap the highlights of this unforgettable first day. For doing that, I have the pleasure of welcoming two of the main actors in today's program. IEF President, Professor Pascal Ehrenfreund, who is here with me in the IEF Secretariat in Paris, and Dr. Valanathan Munsami, IEF Vice President for Emerging Countries and Developing Nations and CEO of the South African National Space Agency, connecting with us from Pretoria, South Africa. As IEF President, Professor Ehrenfreund participated in many IEC opening ceremonies. Therefore, I would like to start by asking about her impressions of this ceremony, so unique and different from all the ones she attended in the past. Pascal, you have the floor.
Well, 2020 has been undoubtedly a challenging year for all of us. An unprecedented situation called for an unprecedented Congress, namely the first ever fully virtual International Astronautical Federation's Congress, the IAC 2020, the Cyberspace Edition. We have a record number of more than 11,300 people, as you just heard from Christian, that have registered at the IAC 2020. And we are happy that we can offer an outstanding and rich program free of charge to all these participants worldwide. While the opening ceremony was certainly very different compared to all the IACs I have previously attended, no big dances, no big concerts, but we tried to include in the 40 minutes as much information as possible about the IAF mission and what to expect in the next 3 days. Apart from several live sessions, including plenaries, highlight lectures, IF Global Network forums, and special sessions, the virtual experience of the IC 2020 includes all the technical presentation gallery with more than 1,300 video lectures and a virtual exhibition with more than 30 booths accessible 24 hours a day. So we were welcomed greetings from Ivan Wagner and Anatoly Ivanishin from the International Space Station. This was exciting, and we also introduced the IACs in Dubai, Paris, and Baku, which will happen in 2021, 2022, and 2023, respectively. We announced the winner of the IAF World Space Award, the Chang'e 4 moon mission leaders. And we also introduced our anchor sponsors, the German Aerospace Center, and our numerous sponsors whose support has been crucial in the organization of this IC 2020. And we announced the official launch of the latest IAF initiative, the IAF Digital Library, the world's largest online repository with over 50,000 digital papers from 70 years of space achievements since the first IC in 1950.
Thank you so much, Pascal. I would like to stay with you to briefly discuss our main panel of the day, the Heads of Agency Plenary. As moderator, please let us know what we should bring home from this morning exciting session.
Yeah, so we had NASA, we had Roscosmos, JAXA, the Canadian Space Agency, ISRO, ESA, and CNSA. And we have heard about the progress of NASA's Artemis program that will establish a sustainable presence on the moon together with commercial and international partners and actually build on the successful framework of the ISS. We have heard about space exploration plans of Roscosmos, that Russia wants to stay with its cosmonauts also after the end of the International Space Station in low Earth orbit. We heard about the launch of the module Nauka, which will deliver exciting and innovative science opportunities on the International Space Station in the near future, and also heard about the new space transportation program of Russia. We also heard about JAXA's plans to contribute to NASA's Artemis program in different technology areas, being manned and unmanned, and also concerning habitation modules. JAXA is also looking forward to the launch of the lunar lander SLIM in 2022 and the launch of the MMX mission to the Martian moon Phobos in 2024. And it is awaiting the return of samples from the successful Hayabusa 2 mission in December this year. We have welcomed the new head of the Canadian Space Agency, Mrs. Lisa Campbell. She's just 1 month in office, and she discussed her mandate that she wants to grow in the space sector and sees space as a true economic engine for society. ISRO has given us an insight into how it engages with partner agencies to advance space technologies and highlighted the global SAR Earth observation mission NISAR, the future Indian human spaceflight program through its Gaganyaan mission, and how it actually supports other nations in capacity building. ESA revealed its ambitious plans to implement the program confirmed at the last very successful ministerial conference in December 2019, with a powerful program in Earth observation, telecommunication and navigation to support the digital transformation. And exciting projects are furthermore on the way. The ESA-JAXA mission Bepi Colombo and the first space debris removal mission, which will be put together very soon. And CNSA has discussed international cooperation efforts and new science and astronomy missions, the engagement with the commercial sector, and closed with thanking the IAF acting as a platform to initiate future cooperations for China with international partners. So in summary, we have also discussed the COVID-19 pandemic and its influence on major space projects and on the space sector. And I want to conclude that it was really very interesting to hear from the leaders of the space community and see that the space sector has ambitious plans, fosters international cooperation, and gathers around common goals.
Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and comprehensive conclusion with us. I would now like to move to Dr. Munsami. You actively participated in today's program with an outstanding special session on state and response of the global space sector during COVID-19. Please walk us through the main highlight of the session.
Thanks, Christian. And it certainly was a well attended, and I think the experts provide some really useful insights. And as Pascal had indicated, this was also a topical issue at the main heads of agencies plenary as well. When you look at the session itself on COVID-19, the state and now preparedness, I think there were 5 key points that came up. The first one was around partnerships. Seemingly there's continued engagement with regards to partnership. We've seen an increase in terms of the cooperation. The one negative side is on the multilaterals. There was a number of multilaterals that have been postponed because of the limitations on face-to-face interactions. The second element is on the industry side, and I think we've seen 2 aspects or 2 impacts on the industry. Specifically on the space industry perspective, there's not been a slowing down. In fact, the industry has picked up in certain quarters, and we found new innovative ways of working. Also kind of reduce the level of sick time and increase the productivity in some domains. But unfortunately, when it comes to smaller enterprises, whenever you have an infection, you have to isolate not just the infected person, but the people that person had been in contact with. And in smaller enterprises, that affected the number of people that had to be off work, and obviously the productivity suffered. The third element is on the gender aspects, and I think there was two instances where the gender issue came out quite strongly. From the UN perspective, there's a gender empowerment initiative that was introduced. And then from the SGAC, the Space Gen, that was hosted a day or two ago, we've seen over 70% of women attended. So that was fairly promising. And then if you look at it from a preparedness point of view, what was stark was that we could have prepared better. And it seems that in many instances we failed to listen to the key scientists in the various domains. And if anything, there's a demonstration that we need the knowledge economy more now than ever before. But we've also seen a number of innovative solutions coming from the space sector, which actually bodes well for future preparedness as well. And then lastly, on the youth element, we've seen the youth actually becoming more aware of their role for the future and looking at how they could make a difference with regards to climate, the SDGs, and preparing for future pandemics. And then also we've seen a number of webinars being introduced to deal with the engagement at the youth level. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you so much, Val. It was indeed a very interesting panel. I would also like to ask you if you had the chance to attend today's IEF GNF session, the DLR panel, Science for Future, Earth Observation Technologies in the Age of Climate Change. Maybe you can share with us your thoughts on the session and the contribution that space can give to the fight against climate change.
Yes, I did attend it, and I actually found it very, very interesting and insightful. So just from a climate perspective, obviously, climate change transcends national boundaries. And if you want to get into the forecasting domain, you have to look at past, present, and future sort of data segments. And obviously, from that perspective, the significance of Earth observation data becomes very important. But what's important going forward is that you need to look at scaling up the EO data to find Earth observation data, to find solutions using big data, machine learning, and high-performance computing, because you're seeing a whole flurry of data coming through from these platforms. So you're seeing petabytes of data coming through. There's also an indication on the data from a citizen science perspective, and I'll give you an example just now. And then also there was a reflection that we needed to strengthen our combined efforts so that we can be more agile, fast, and effective. And in the presentation, there were three key initiatives that was presented. And I thought they were quite unique in a sense that the one was kind of more on the basic science side. The second was just reinventing current solutions. And the third one was more on citizen science. So the first one was on Merlin, which is looking at greenhouse gases and focusing on the absorptive lines of carbon dioxide and methane. And you could effectively use passive or active sensors. So what Merlin is doing is using sort of Earth observation using a LiDAR instrument. And it complements the passive sensors that we've traditionally been using. Then there was a presentation by Planet, who's currently imaging the entire Earth. And so we're looking at periodic monitoring. And so they have a suite of satellites, 150 satellites in the medium resolution part of the spectrum. And then there's about 20 also satellites in the high resolution, spatial resolution. And they're currently using this kind of data for supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And there was a good example of how they're applying that for forestry monitoring in Germany. And then the third application or example was around Ice King. So using applications for sustainable tourism. So they were essentially using crowdsourcing images for glacier research. And essentially the scientists were able to use these images. And this is a classic example of citizen science. So I think those three examples give you quite a neat perspective as to how we could use some of the initiatives coming through in a much more innovative way going forward. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you so much, Val, for this very comprehensive summary of this most interesting session. I would now like to return to Pascal for the highlight lecture on the successful Chang'e 4 mission. As you know, the leaders of this mission are also the recipients of this year's IEF World Space Award. Please, Pascal, can you share with us your impressions on the mission and its highlight lecture?
Well, China's Chang'e 4 mission was the first to land on the far side of the moon on 3rd of January 2019. And the mission has been exploring the von Karman crater in the South Pole Aitken Basin. The IF World Space Award highlight lecture disclosed that the Chang'e 4 mission has provided a reliable platform for scientific exploration. There have been a lot of exciting scientific discoveries, many scientific publications and patents as outlined in the presentation, and future robotic and manned lunar exploration missions will strongly benefit from the accurate lunar environment data collected by this mission. It is also important to note that extensive international cooperation has been an integral part of the Chang'e 4 mission. And the success of the Chang'e 4 mission has attracted global attention. It was great that our colleagues in China have organized a special IAC 2020 watching sessions and that we could see the enthusiastic crowd in Beijing. So in summary, this really represents a well-deserved IF World Space Award 2020 for the impressive achievements on the Chang'e 4 mission leaders.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. It was really enlightening. Reaching the end of this program, I would close today's recap session with a final question to Dr. Munsami. As you know, we closed the program with the first chapter of our collaboration with NASA TV. What do you take from the dialogue with Ms. Lüders and Dr. Surbogen-Wall?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. I found this very interesting conversation between Kathy and Thomas. So from my perspective, I saw the intersection between the various science missions and human exploration. And if you look at the title of the conversation was Bringing the Whole Community to Explore as One, looking at it from a science perspective and human exploration. So you're essentially taking advantage of the science experiments on various platforms, like the experiments you would have on Earth observation satellites, exploration missions, and so on. And then also the scientific experiments on the IS instrument, on the IS itself was used towards, for example, the lunar missions. So you see scientific experiments provide insights for future missions. And so as an example, the EVA suits that are used by astronauts is used to perfect the lunar surface suits. And you've seen technologies used in the IS today is very different from when we started. So you're seeing these continuous improvements happening. And now you're seeing the commercial partners also coming into these kind of initiatives. And then the next step is also the Lunar Gateway, or Cislunar, and that's another opportunity for scientific engagement. So you're looking at the evolution of systems in a sort of a radiation environment, which is very different from where the International Space Station sits. And then also the focus is on how do you train astronauts and what you focus on. And so the skills that you're looking for is the skills to do science and move the science objectives. And understanding the difference between astronauts in orbit and astronauts on the surface of the moon and Mars for that matter. And so you have to understand the environment and the protection of the crew and what sort of engineering refinements you need towards that respect. And then also the lunar is not the end goal. Mars is the focus. So it's a sort of a pathway or a journey, if you can look at it that way. And you also have to take into account that when you undertake these missions, you also have to learn how to use the resources on the surface of the moon and Mars. So you don't have to take all the resources you require on the mission with, because that's a costly endeavor. And then there's also the nexus between human and robotics exploration. And what I took away from the end is this continuous improvement and the interfacing between the science and the human exploration kind of feeds into each other. And there's sort of a symbiotic relationship between the two. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Val. I would like to really sincerely thank Professor Ehrenfreund and Dr. Munsami for sharing your thoughts on today's program. We've now reached the end of the first day. What an incredible journey it was. I would like to thank all the speakers and moderators for their contribution to making this such an unforgettable day. And finally, I would like to thank all of you for having stayed with us till the end. As already mentioned this morning, I would like to remind you that our online technical presentations gallery and the virtual exhibition will continue to be open for you 24 hours. Thank you so much for having connected with us, and see you tomorrow.